Good morning and a very warm welcome to an early start here at London's Heathrow. Guys, today I'm going to be flying with Swiss for the very first time, and indeed it'll be a first for the channel. I'm going to be flying with them with their business class through to their home in Zurich. Very much looking forward to a bit of a different flavour on the European business class front, so come along, it's going to be a pretty good trip. Well, the day started under my own steam as I made my own way to Heathrow's Terminal 2, courtesy of the business parking down at Heathrow. Having been someone who flies regularly with the One World Alliance, Terminal 2 is a really rare treat for me. I haven't been since around 2018. It is Heathrow's newest terminal and it is incredibly impressive to arrive into. That view just down there, certainly for someone who's not great with heights, was a little bit stomach churning, but always great to arrive in such a smart looking terminal. Upon arrival, and as ever, it was straight through to check-in for me. I had my eyes peeled for the business class check-in with Swiss. On that particular occasion, I did just see the machine, so decided to jump in and help myself out. I think I've been very well trained in recent times flying economy with Emirates. That said, there was business class check-in just beyond, so if you do fancy a manned desk, or if it is particularly busy in that area, you do then have the option of the dedicated check-in lanes. Well, that's check-in done, nice and seamless and efficient as ever. Gotta head through security and then it's gonna be through to the Lufthansa lounge, so let's check this one out. For those wondering why there's so many mentions of Star Alliance about the terminal, this is Heathrow's Star Alliance terminal, so with that being the case, you do get the benefit of a dedicated fast track security lane. Heading through there was nice and seamless, and just beyond, it was then time to navigate my way through to the lounge. Having travelled through this terminal in the past without status and also travelling economy, I can certainly confirm that there are an awful lot of food options, many of them quite standard right the way across London's Heathrow, so those of you who have travelled out of other terminals will be very familiar with many of the offerings just here. That said, they're really plentiful. The terminal itself was nice and quiet and it was very easy to navigate my way through into the lounge. If you were someone with status with the Star Alliance, there would no doubt be a number of really good options for you. That said, on that particular occasion, I was assigned the Lufthansa lounge, so that was the one that I headed straight through to. These are slightly split between the business lounge and also the Senator lounge. It was just the business lounge that I had access to on that particular morning. As I start to give you a quick tour around this particular lounge, quick note in terms of the difference between the Senator lounge and the business lounge. The business lounge is just for those flying business class, whereas the Senator class of lounge is a little bit more premium. That's for those travelling first class or those with top tier Star Alliance or indeed Lufthansa status. In terms of my overall thoughts on the lounge, actually pretty good by European business class standards. There was a nice variety of decent seating areas to set yourself down. The food was particularly impressive. There was a decent selection of colder options and then a really extensive hot food buffet. I accessed the lounge around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, if not slightly earlier. So with that being the case, of course, the order of the day at that time was very much focused on the breakfast. For those looking to find some drinks, yes, decent selection of teas and coffees, not bad little selection of wines, of course, for a little bit later in the day, and also a self-service bar as well. There were toilets located within the lounge, however, sadly on this occasion, no showers to report. Now the plan is very much to bring you all breakfast to see on board the flight, so on this particular occasion I just helped myself to one of the fresh juices, which was really very good, and took a seat with a nice view back over towards Heathrow's Terminal 4. A quick note on the access to the Senator lounge, that was all done so on an automated basis. You could just buzz your boarding pass and take yourself through. The area just through there did look a little bit more enhanced to the business lounge. On the way out, I couldn't resist one of the fresh pastries, as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. That was really very nice, by the way. Just over to the right hand side when exiting the lounge was this smaller relaxation area that looked pretty decent, and then on the left an area to take private phone calls as well, which I also thought was a nice touch. Well, that was a brief but very enjoyable time in the lounge. Being a Lufthansa lounge, incredibly Germanic right the way down to the food, the decor, just the atmosphere. Those lounges always do make me laugh a little bit. I'm not too unfamiliar of course, with German things, particularly with the BMW. But yeah, the lounges, I think, are probably the most German thing in the world outside of Germany. But look, anyway, head into the gate now. It's about half an hour or so before departure. So let's, clear the boarding and get on board. Quick note worth mentioning before we do board that there was some signage around the terminal for some additional shower facilities, so that may worth be checking out if indeed you are passing through the airport. Upon boarding itself, they had a dedicated check-in lane for groups 1 and 2, 1 being absolute top tier status and 2 being the business class. The aircraft on that particular day was to be an Airbus A321 Neo, so it was really quite nice and new, and I'm a big fan of those Neos with the new engine options, and indeed it being that much quieter. Upon jumping on board, it was already incredibly busy in the business class. They had a really extended business class on that particular day. Of course, London to Zurich, a very premium routing. The seats laid out in a 2-2-ish kind of configuration with the middle seat blocked, but not really blocked, but no one was allowed to sit there. So very European. I'm not a big fan of it. The seats, yeah, were modern. They were leather, a little bit similar to the British Airways ones, but not massively comfy. Legroom in the front row, as you'd expect, was indeed fantastic. But overall, when it comes to hard seat design, indeed products for European business class, it's not something I'm a massive fan of. To take this a step further, I would comment on the armrests, whether it's in the business class or the economy. The little ones that they'd gone for really didn't feel particularly comfortable at all. I know on these short haul jets, you're never going to have anything too luxurious just there, but this was particularly cheap and nasty. In addition to that as well, there was no in-seat charging both on the outbound or on the return on this particular aircraft, so that was a real shame in this day and age, especially with it being such a modern aircraft. That said, shortly after boarding, the staff were absolutely fantastic and brought round some welcome Swiss water, which was quite a nice little touch, and we were very shortly bang on time on our way out to Zurich. As we make our short trip out to the departure runway, this is a good time for me to mention that this video will be part of a 4-part video series with Swiss. So if you are keen to see their longer haul business class product, hit that subscribe button and it's far more likely that YouTube will then suggest that video to you. It will be great to welcome you on board the channel. For now, I'll leave you with this takeoff. This really was quite a special one, so enjoy this full takeoff footage as we depart London Heathrow. As we headed towards those London skies, passing the home of English rugby, of course thoughts my side were very much turning to that in-flight service. After all, it had been a very early start, was up before 6 AM, so was very much looking forward to that onboard catering. Now, in terms of said catering, I'll take a minute to take you through this particular menu. This wasn't for the business class passengers. This was available throughout the flight, but mostly targeted towards the economy passengers. I thought this was really nicely put together. Of course, being a Swiss airline, as you kind of expect, not massively cheap, although points could be used to purchase some of the snacks. I just thought this was a really beautifully put together menu. Being the front row, the tables extended directly from the armrest. A little bit further back in the cabin, the tables very much just came down as standard from the seat in front. It was a little bit fiddly to operate out, but once I finally got there, it did provide a pretty decent dining surface. Now I have to say, flying with Swiss and particularly doing this subsequent flight in the opposite direction just this morning, one of the big highlights flying early with them is the breakfast. I often believe that it really is the most tricky meal to get right on an aircraft, and they absolutely nailed it. It was really very nice indeed. The omelette was nicely done. There was then some fresh bread, fresh croissants to go alongside it, and a few other courses. I particularly liked the nice little touches on the cutlery. The service was then followed up with a selection of drinks, and I went with the fresh orange juice, which again was really good. In terms of in-flight entertainment, sadly no Wi-Fi was available. They did have some screens across the top of the cabin, but these largely were used for advertisement purposes. As we headed eastwards across Europe, the clouds finally pulled back and revealed a really nice view. Checking in with the map to see where we are. Okay, we're still on the ads for their new services. Never mind, maybe we'll get an idea of where we are in just a moment. All joking at Swiss's expense aside, all grievances were very quickly healed with this lovely offering of Swiss chocolate shortly before we made our descent into an absolutely beautiful looking Zurich. Of all of my trip reports I've ever brought to YouTube, this was the one that I was really hoping to get decent weather for. It was something that was always going to pay back really well in terms of the views, and it certainly didn't fail to disappoint. Hilariously, as we were on final approach into Zurich, the map finally appeared to show us, of course, where we'd expect to be. Maybe nice to get the confirmation. I think at that point, all of the various different adverts for new routes, new premium economy had gone by. I do have to say, as a free bit of advertising for Swiss, their new premium economy looks absolutely fantastic, and I would certainly like to do that for you all very soon. So that was Swiss short-haul business class. All in all, a fairly decent experience. The food was very good, the service was friendly and efficient. I can't help be a little bit underwhelmed whenever I fly European business class, and I do wonder one day whether there'll really be an entrant into the market that does things a little bit similar to the rest of the continents around the world, with business laid out in a 2-2 configuration, for example. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I'm soon transiting onto an aircraft very similar to the one behind me to transit over to Dubai, so check that video out as soon as it's published in the bottom left. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one.